Hello, this is Jacob on another episode of Small Business Chat. We got some exciting, well, not exciting as in anything new, but Logan Paul keeps getting sued by many people. I guess maybe every week we'll see somebody else that's suing him for his Prime trademark. We also got today some information that we'd love to share with you guys, some knowledge that is me and Matt's over the course of our careers have gathered from customer interactions, good or bad. We'll talk about it today. Matt joins me to talk all about it. How's it going today, Matt?
Buenos dias, and man, does it feel like fall outside already? It's August, what, 14th, and it's like 80 degrees and like a nice cool breeze. What's going on with this, man? This is nice.
No, I always like to think North Carolina is bipolar all the time because it's raining one day, hot as crap the next day, humidity is up through the roof the next day after that. But yeah, this whole week has been pretty nice. So
Yeah, yeah, well,
compared
yeah.
to the last couple of weeks with Hurricane Debbie. It's funny. My mom's name is her is Dirt. Almost said my mom's name is Hurricane Debbie. My mom's name is her first name is Debbie. So she's seen all the Debbie memes.
Sorry to get you. I was like, my mom's name is Hurricane Debbie. Wow.
That's what they used to call her.
That's just her nickname. Did you ever
um,
see the movie? Did you ever see the vacation movie that recently came, or the most recent one with Ed Helms and Christina Applegate?
no, what's that one called?
He finds out his wife's name in college was Debbie Do Anything. Sorry, just it
Oh
reminded
no.
me. Yeah, so it's slightly different spin, but I'll let you see that. It's a great standalone movie or sequel, as the case may be, but you don't really find that out to the end. Well, sort of. But anyways, onwards.
Onwards. We got some good stuff to talk about today. One big news thing that just hit. I think it's actually happened yesterday, timestamped August 13th, 2024. Logan Paul and KSI's Prime Hydration, which was featured in a like a podcast or two ago from us, when they were sued by the Olympics. They have now been sued by NASCAR driver Caesar Bacarella.
You got this. Say it again. You got this. I know. I feel it. You can do it.
Caesar Barkella is how do you say it, Matt?
Oh, I just don't.
Oh,
That's my
I thought you knew this
I don't
person.
know how to do something. I just won't say it.
I thought you
Or
knew this
when
person, and you're like, man, he better spell it right.
I
Um,
will say this, and I've learned this from a friend of mine who is a news anchor. You pronounce it correctly, pronounce it incorrectly, but just pronounce it with confidence. So when you're just reading through something, you just basically be like, it should be like whatever this guy's name is, Caesar Barcola, we'll say, just like, and Caesar Barcola today, and just like it doesn't matter because I've mispronounced things throughout my career, but I've done so with confidence. So a lot of people don't question me until they think that like I once pronounced bourgeoisie. Have you ever seen that actually written down?
no.
It's spelled Bergios, but I was once in a class. I was like, well, in the Bergios class, and they're like, you mean bourgeoisie? I'm like, sure. Like I didn't know I had these fancy stuff. But anyways, pronounce with confidence. All right, I'll shut the hell up now. What's going on with Jake Paul again?
Let me try it again. Caesar Barkella. How about that?
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Even if it's not like Caesar's going to call us up, right?
Right? No, not at all.
He's too busy doing Logan Paul.
Have you ever heard of this guy? I mean, I don't think me and you are either into NASCAR that much, but have you ever heard of this guy?
Are you kidding me? I put my cowboy boots on, my jorts, and my my cowboy. I go out every weekend with my trailer and sit there and say, "Woo!" I actually do watch NASCAR from time to time, but no, I have not heard of this guy.
Gotcha. Yeah, me neither. I only know the basics like Jeff Gordon, and Jimmy
He's
Johnson.
retired now, by the way.
I
He's also
know.
retired
But
now.
I grew up with him, so he's the only one that sticks in my brain.
The
Jimmy Johnson,
league, the
maybe.
challenge of NASCAR was they tried to grow because they wanted to grow beyond their southern roots. So I think they lost a lot of their fanatic fan base when they did that. And then I mean that's cool. They're trying to grow, but they win that Northeast and the Western Circuit and all that sort of stuff. But their roots are still in the South and such. So again, the Jeff Gordons, the Petties. There's no Petty racing anymore and all that sort of stuff. They still you go down, by the way, on the side, go down to Charlotte Motor Speedway. I highly recommend this. At some juncture, it's a great date day for you and your wife. And drive the Richard Petty experience around Charlotte Motor Speedway because it is a super speedway. You can take out a car and you can take her up to about 180, 190 miles an hour by yourself. And it is awesome.
Gotcha. Awesome. I'll keep that in mind for me and Destiny's next. Um, time out maybe a Friday night or something like that. I'll definitely keep that one in mind. Awesome.
All right.
Well,
So Logan Paul sued. Bring us to the
yes,
facts.
yes. Here we go. Since it launched back in 2022, apparently this is I never drank a sip of this. I've only it feels like it's only starting to come out now for me, but I don't really drink too much of this type of fluids. But it's been launched back in 2022, and now it's like basic one of the most popular drinks out there right now, or hydration drinks. Logan Paul and KSI's Prime Hydration has skyrocketed in popularity to become one of the most popular drink companies in the world. On July 30th, 2024, NASCAR Xfinity driver Cesar Barcala filed
Oh,
a lawsuit against the brand for trademark infringement, but it isn't because of his racing endeavors. It is because he has a Prime Hydration, or no, sorry, he claims that Prime Hydration, which is Logan Paul's company, infringes on his trademark for Alpha Prime, which is a supplement company. So let's just stop right there, Matt, and talk about that. So obviously, Logan Paul has the hydration company, and Barcala has the supplement company. Them being in two different somewhat industries, is there still similarities there with the USPTO? Find this similar, even though they're I mean, would that be? Let me even look up if that's the same class, or would you know off the top of your head?
no, yeah, nutritional supplements and energy drinks are not in the same class. I don't believe so. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to unpack in this. And again, we're not looking at the evidence before the court. We're just going off of what the article says. And I would, caution to say that news article sources who are not into the law, and this goes from criminal law to trademark law to constitutional law, are oftentimes inaccurate. But just from what you just said right there, we got a lot of stuff to unpack because there's actually one thing, because we talked before the podcast here about this, and there's something that I did not realize, and there's going to be a massive defense from Mr. Paul and his company. So it's one of those things that we just we'll have to touch on as well. We didn't talk on but before, but anyways, so anytime you basically have a trademark issue, shall we say, you're alleging infringement, really you're looking at, there's usually about 6 to 8 things that they look at, standards, if you will. But really, you want to adopt a trademark that's not too similar to somebody else's trademark. And you want to, and if, and it can't be similar in like overlapping goods and services or related goods and services. So for instance, if you're going to come out with a line of socks, and you have a very similar name to a shoe company, they're probably going to be considered related because, a lot of shoe companies like Nike or whatnot will also make the socks. So coming back full circle to your question, like, do we think that nutritional supplements are related to, energy drinks? What do you think?
Um, I think there. I mean, obviously, being one being hydration, the other being supplement. I mean, sometimes supplements can be in drinks.
Yeah, that's a
So
good point.
I think it's in the same ballpark,
Yeah.
but in a different field. But I mean, it just all depends on when maybe Caesar Barcala filed it and when he claimed first use. Obviously, first use for Logan Paul was 2022. So I
Yeah.
haven't even got a chance to look up when Caesar did it. But um, personally, I don't think that Caesar Barcala should get this ruling in his favor. I just don't think it'll upheld. I think a lot of people are just trying to stop Logan Paul on his uprise with his drink brand. I don't think Caesar Barcala is going to stand. I think the Olympics would have had a better chance of getting him overcoming lawsuits rather than this guy. So I don't think he stands a chance. What do you think?
Yeah, and I tend to agree right along with you. And again, this is just two guys' opinions. Their attorneys will battle this out and all that sort of stuff. But the first thing is I actually do think that, like, I actually think there is an overlap in the goods and services because when you talk about nutritional supplements, so it's basically when you try to figure out is there an overlap in the goods and services, does Monster Energy drinks overlap with GNC Labs? The two of the biggest, one's an energy drink manufacturer or Red Bull. Everyone knows Red Bull and Monster. Versus like a GNC nutritional supplements. GNC is pretty much the biggest nutraceuticals manufacturer, I believe, possibly in the world. And so I haven't been into a GNC store in a long time, and I don't know whether or not that they would sell like actually Monster Energy drinks and Red Bull, but I guarantee you they have some sort of like nutritional supplement energy drink that's not based on sugar and caffeine. that is probably maybe a little bit healthier or whatnot. But so to me, if GNC would sell them, I think that, how do you say that name again, Mr. Porter? How do you say it?
For Barcalla's trademark. It's
Bacarella's trademark. Thank you very much.
it's
The
the
comment. There
Alpha
you go.
Prime. Alpha Prime. Yep.
There you go. So for his is, so I think he would probably I think he would be able to persuade a jury, or, if it's the trademark trial and appeal board, that there's going to be an overlap, because I'm guessing like stores like GNC does it. The next thing, by the way, in the analysis is, well, the trademark's similar. And so his is for Alpha Prime and Logan Paul. So by the way, everything we're talking about, we're assuming that Barcala, I think I got that right. We're assuming that he used his trademark first. Okay. And on the assumption, either, because if you use it second, you definitely don't want to bring a lawsuit, because you've admitted to junior use, and the other person just comes back and says, well, actually, you're the one that's infringing because I was using my first. So we're assuming that he was using it before 2022. The general rule is you can't add, a term to a registered trademark, or you can't subtract a term from a registered trademark to create a distinction. So in other words, when we talk about Logan Paul's trademark, his trademark is for Prime. Barcala's is for Alpha Prime. So assuming that his was used first, our analysis would be, and this is, by the way, this is standard trademark clearance 101 for anyone who's out there, is when I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, is there an overlap in the goods and services? We've already said, yeah, I think it's close enough that this could be a potential issue. And I think this is how the Patent and Trademark Office would look at it, but also independent courts out there as well. But then the next question is, okay, well, did Mr. Paul select a trademark that is different sufficiently from Alpha Prime? And so the question would be, okay, so all he did was he chopped off Alpha. I mean, he may not have even known about this Alpha Prime. We're not saying he did. I'm just simply saying, but when you just look at it in a vacuum, he chopped off the word Alpha. And so you have Prime versus Prime. The general rule is you can't just chop off a word. So then you have to say, okay, is that word, what we call, this big terminology here in the trademark world, it's called inherently distinctive. What that means is it's not like, McDonald's hamburgers. You chop off McDonald's. Could it be Burger King hamburgers? Yes, because hamburgers is generic for what you're serving. Okay. Inherently distinctive means you actually could have rights in that part of the trademark, because you're the one that coined it, you're the one that is arbitrary, whatnot. But inherently distinctive effectively means it's not merely descriptive of your products or services, and it's not generic for your product services. So do you think that Prime, Jacob, do you think Prime would be descriptive or generic for either vitamin supplements or energy drinks?
I would say distinctive, because it's not necessarily describing what the
Yeah.
it describe the descriptive would be if he put in prime. Actually, I would say if he did like prime hydration drinks or something like that, that's going to be a descriptive trademark. But since his trademark is just prime, I don't think so.
No, I think I agree with you. I mean, so I think the challenge is for the Paul side of this, which, by the way, I'm going to whipsaw around on this and actually support Mr. Paul's side here very, very quickly, because something I didn't realize before we started this. But I think the goods are probably relatively close and such. And I also think that it's basically, you're just looking at this going, say it's a trademark, and all you did was chopped off one portion, but you're sitting there with an inherently distinctive portion, which is identical to a registered trademark. All you did was remove one of their terms. In layman's vernacular, allow me to basically phrase it this way: I can't come out and go and basically get a trademark for Matt's Coca-Cola. I can't add just a term, because Coca-Cola is one of the most famous brands of all time. And those nice folks down in Atlanta would basically be like, hey, Matt, about that. But likewise, and this would be sort of a more direct analogy for what Mr. Paul's challenge is today, is I couldn't go and effectively just register, Coca for sodas, because I'd drop in the generic term, right? Because Coca-Cola, because they're inherently distinctive. Believe it or not, the Coca, not the cola, but the Coca is the actual inherently distinctive part of the Coca-Cola brand and such. And so that, I mean, again, we all know there's the whole rumor in the wives' tale that Coca refers to cocaine because it used to have cocaine in it at the turn of the century, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's actually true. Obviously, it no longer does, because it was originally, all those sodas were actually what you get in your drugstore to make your tummy feel better. That's how sodas actually started, because it was sugar water, effectively. And it worked. But coming back to the point, from a trademark perspective, I couldn't just drop cola and say, well, I'm going to register Coca. Because again, those nice people in Atlanta would, have their lawyer send me a nice little letter and say, hey, Matt, guess about your use of that? Not so much, and such. And they'd be right, and such. So I think Mr. Paul actually sort of has a problem with this one, from my opinion, until we get to in my opinion, the death blow to Mr. Barcola's case. Do you know what it is?
What is it?
Where you been, dude? Jake Paul's gone from 0 to 60 on this brand over the last 2 to 3 years, and maybe they've been negotiating with for the last 2 years. Maybe got a cease and desist letter or whatever. But there's this doctrine of law called latches, and latches basically means if you sit on your rights, then you forfeit your rights, and it's what we call an equitable thing. So in other words, you get into a car wreck, right, and you injure somebody. I'm not saying you have been in a car wreck. I'm hoping, is this hitting too close to home? Is this okay? Can we talk about this?
I've been in one minor accident before, but no, go for
It's
it.
okay. I left them parked under the car. But anyways, no. But you get into a car wreck, and in some cases, you actually have what's called a statute of limitation. That's merely a codification of actually the equity rule of latches, which means you get into a car wreck. If you got injured in a car wreck, most states give you 2 to 3 years to sue somebody from the date of the car wreck. And if you don't sue them, then as a matter of law, you've given up your case. Okay. And why? And latches is the same thing. Latches is more of a sliding scale, like, okay, how long has it been since this person adopted the trademark, since the accident happened? And are they relying on the fact that you haven't enforced your rights to go on with their life? And at some juncture, even though you may have had a valid claim against them, the law starts looking at it and it goes, well, you had a valid claim, but you've waited so long. They've been relying on the fact that you didn't come out of the woodwork to sue them. So they've moved on with your life. You can't just surprise them now. Now, let me draw this specifically into why this is very important in trademark and branding cases. Someone comes out and adopts a confusingly similar trademark to yours. You have an obligation to basically go out as soon as possible. And by the way, I'll just give you a rankful thing here real quick. Trademark company, we finally figured out electronically how to send cease and desist letters and to help our customers out in that regard. A blatant plug right there, but it is what it is. It's all done through AI now, and it's a really great service. But anyways, coming back full circle, you have an obligation to enforce your trademark and do it in a timely manner. Why? Because it's not fair, believe it or not, I'm actually saying this, for the person who may be the infringing person to spend their blood, sweat, and tears while you're sitting back waiting and just saying, oh, do they hit? Do they make millions? Do they make billions? And then once they're making millions and billions, for you to then say 2 to 3 years later, ha, you're basically infringing on my trademark. Now I want your millions and billions. Now, for all we know, Mr. Barcola and his attorney sent the Paul and Prime a cease and desist letter 2 years ago when they started, and they've just been negotiating and they've never been able to work it out. And now it's like, okay, screw you. We're going to basically file a lawsuit over this. But if they didn't, and they sat around and they waited until Logan Paul basically relied on the fact that, or his company, that no one effectively, has come after him and all that sort of stuff, and now he's making millions and millions, it starts looking like this is a money grab. And what the law will tell you under latches is if Logan Paul was able to, and his company more importantly, rely on the fact that, hey, no one's tried to enforce their rights. We're ramping this up. This is going great. It's been a year, then it's a year and a half. Now it's 2 years. Now you're looking at, you said sometime in 2022 is when Logan Paul filed for this. But a company like this doesn't spring out of the earth overnight. They've probably been working on this since 2020, 2021, formulations, all that sort of stuff. At some point, the equities shift. And under the doctrine of latches, if Paul and his company can show that these people sat on their rights, this NASCAR driver sat on his rights for a year or more, there's not a defined moment, like it's 2 years, it's 3 years, it's 4 years. If you started spending a tremendous amount after you've been out there for a year, and he did everything right, he filed for a patent and trademark office trademark, which puts the world on notice. Hey, I'm trying to get this trademark. They have an obligation to oppose it. They have an obligation to basically come out and say, hey, man, you should not have this trademark immediately. And God forbid, if Logan Paul actually got this thing registered, a U.S. Patent and Trademark Office attorney even, bless them with you're good to go on this and all that sort of stuff. I think it's a very hard uphill battle then for Barcola to meet his standard, first of all, in reference to even the case, but second of all, to overcome latches at this juncture, especially if what you're telling me is true, that Logan Paul in 2 years has taken this brand from nothing to basically like this multi-million dollar company that's doing really great. So my ultimate opinion comes down to Bacarella, where were you? I think Latches is going to borrow the case, but again, we'll let it work its way through the court system. What do you think about my analysis? Huh?
I think it's pretty and analytical. And
Political.
I
I think it
think
was very verbose.
I also had a question, or just more so to hear your thoughts on it. But do you think this? I mean, for example, if me myself, Jacob Porter, just started a hydration business tomorrow, and I went out and trademarked, like, let's say Beast Prime or something, right? And it was a hydration business. Do you think, and since I followed it with USPTO, do you think anybody would come out at me at first? Like, do you think as much as people have coming out at Logan Paul, or do you think is it more of just he's so popular, everyone's trying to come at him type of deal, or what do you think?
I definitely think that popularity, so a couple things in my life, I've seen, once you become a lightning rod, you're a lightning rod. And it takes you a while to not become a lightning rod. And I don't really know who Logan Paul is. Remember, you've sort of briefed me on him and his brother, and all that sort of stuff. And, what I can tell is, first of all, I like an American success story. And despite, personalities and all that sort of stuff, if the dude's able to start a company and turn it into a multi-million-dollar company, and obviously he's got financial backers and all that sort of stuff, I'm like, good for him. I mean, we want this in the United States, and I don't know why people aren't celebrating entrepreneurial success like we should be. And then but the minute you basically start making money in this country, people come out of the woodwork and try to take it from you. I mean, that's why, like, I know it's going to be a duck pat walk here, but if you ever win the lottery, please, for the love of God, don't just run out and say, I won the lottery, because you'll be sued by every person, including your mailman, not imputing mailman, but you know what I mean? Because everyone wants a piece of you now. So my question would just simply be so if you actually were to file for Beast, would someone actually come after you? Possibly. If you were to file for Beast after basically then being on every, the Today Show and Jimmy Fallon and all that sort of stuff and being like, yeah, we made $1 billion last quarter and all that sort of stuff, I guarantee you someone would find a way to sue you. I mean, it's absolutely true. And you've heard, and like every once in a while you hear, like, I'm sorry, it's a little bit political, but it's what you're like, I do believe Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal and all that sort of stuff with the Donald Trump thing. It's my personal opinion and all that sort of stuff. But the things that Donald Trump has said sometimes in his attempted defense are true. If you're a rich guy in this country, or a rich woman for that matter, or a rich company, people will just simply come after you. And I think that's unfortunately the price of doing business. So again, coming back to your question, if you filed for Beast, I honestly think you'd probably get a cease and desist from Monster Energy. I think there is a Beast Energy, by the way. But if you were to actually file for it, you'd probably definitely get a cease and desist. But if you start making millions, someone would come after you somehow, some way, whatnot, because that's what people do. People who can't do will come after you for your money because you're able to be successful, and think that somehow by coming after you, it somehow excuses their failures in life. It's a really twisted world sometimes.
And everyone that's listening, please be careful out there, especially when you get popular.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Do the best that you can. One of my favorite things I say to customers all the time, especially when most of some customers I talk to on the phone when I'm helping them throughout the trademark process, they're kind of nervous, and they're also just kind of lost a little bit sometimes when it comes to the trademark process. It's as people that are listening and everybody that's been through the trademark process, it's a very hefty one, a very lengthy one, a very confusing one as well, because partly due to the USPTO system and how they operated. But most people come to me and say, like, are always just just very blindsided by how hard it is and how busy it is with them, their lives, and how much they have to pour into the trademark and everything. So they're very thankful every time that we kind of like talk to them about how the process works and just help them to get through what they need to get through to secure their business. So if you're listening and you have those types of issues, and you're definitely worried about securing your trademark, come to us. We're happy to kind of walk you through the process and make it a lot easier for you. Matt, are you ready to go on to the next topic here?
Is this the big matzo ball one? Is this the big one? Is this our
big
business advice for the episode? Yeah, go ahead.
This is the advice for the episode. As if you're definitely a business owner, I think you've I'm definitely a business owner who's been in business for many years. I think everyone's encountered this or at least seen it in front of them a couple of times. Customers, angry customers, and maybe even just I guess confused customers as well. That any business can get. Sometimes they could come on the face of like maybe a review online that wasn't so pleasant, or maybe it could be maybe an angry customer on the phone with one of your employees. We're here to share some stories and then also to share. We're not going to name any names during this one.
No,
Um,
no,
uh,
no, no, no names.
no names, but but more so, our point of trying to talk about this subject or topic is not only just to share these stories, but to talk about how to overcome them. Because again, this is more of a advice or teaching lessons we're going to show here. So, Matt, do you have any ones to start off with? Any ones you can strum up with in your past?
Oh, I had my favorite one of all time, but I was
Oh,
to
okay.
lead off with it. But a couple years ago, obviously, and then we're talking about, company was, it had gone through some attrition, so I actually was working the phones for an afternoon or two or three and whatever, and I always it was always a very interesting, but anyways, sorry, I was looking around the office. I can see people walking. I come in, where I am. I'm in a glass conference room. I got distracted. I was looking at some people walking through
Oh,
the
squirrel.
hallways. Yeah, squirrel, me and such. I'm like, "Ooh, what does that guy have from Sheets over there? Is that a burger?" No, but sorry, but
Also, side
no,
note, our office is right next to Sheets, which is a blessing, but also not the greatest thing in the world because it's allows some people or myself sometimes to go get some junk food during the day. So
yeah, yeah, and
walking
we
distance.
love, we love Sheets. And by the way, great trademark on that Sheets. We like that. But sorry, give me 1 second. I am doing one thing and then I'm gonna tell the story. Boom, boom, because you know me, sometimes I get a little bit distracted. Okay. Um, my favorite one was, we'd process a trademark for this person. This is many, many years ago. And, and because it's part of the story, I have to tell it. Like, this person was a sort of a fitness guru, hailing from California, had a series of, DVDs out and all that sort of stuff. And for all intents and purposes, she was this very cute, petite blonde and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, okay. And then her trademark came back and it got a refusal. And irrespective of whether or not, we could overcome the refusal, assist her with overcoming the refusal, man, she went 0 to 60 on me faster than anyone has gone 0 to 60. And I know you know this story, but like she's just, I mean, I don't remember how many F bombs and the derivations that she used on me. She's like, you fucking, and I was just like, and I'm a fan of the F bomb. I've used it not, but I mean, holy crap. I'm like, and then it started to get to a point. It was so bad. Like I was just impressed at all, like how inventive she was at changing the F bomb and conjugating it in different ways. I'm like, holy crap, that's fantastic. And then she ended up, and I think you'll remember this. She's like, and I'm gonna cut your effing head off. And I'm like, dude,
Hey, just a trademark,
it's a
lady.
trademark. In that moment, all I could think to myself was, how oddly specific was that? I was like, you tell me things I can't anatomically do to myself over and over again. I'm just like, I don't think that's possible, but I could try. But how could I do that? Because you're just thinking about this, the person's just tearing you up. And then she sort of her big closer was, I'm going to chop your head off. And I'm like, okay, this is an angry customer. How do we deal with this? So do you have any favorite ones that you have in mind? And then we can start talking about, techniques to actually get through this when people are just dropping F-bombs on you and screaming at you.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say, just to kind of cut into the interaction you had with that lovely lady, would be sometimes I feel because I've dealt with a lot of angry customers, not something most of that we have done, but just sometimes most of our customers, especially this could lead into everyone's categories and everyone's genre. So this isn't even really dedicated to the business that we're in, but this is just everywhere. You'll have an angry customer. I always like to give the analogy of McDonald's. I know this is going to come out of left field, but not everyone's going to like how their burger's cooked, right?
Yep.
Everyone's not going to like the amount of ketchup that is squirted on the top on the top of their meat. Well, that's probably a bad analogy to use there.
Oh, that's good.
Right? Not everyone's going to like again what they receive at McDonald's. Sometimes somebody's not going to like the way their dessert is at a Dairy Queen. It just all depends. But the the primary basis of me bringing this up is that you can't please everyone, but you have to please the right amount of people and the majority of people to be a successful business, in my mind. Because if you don't, if you
Yep.
please like only 20% and the extra 80% is left over, then you're not going to have a successful business. Then because you're not going to have any returning customers. But I guess also just extinguishing fires is also another thing. Is I would say definitely never let a customer, especially if a customer's been calling in every single day and nobody's getting to them. Definitely cut that out right away, especially if you're an owner and you start seeing that come through any channel of either a manager or a employee that's not dealing with a customer complaint. The first thing that they're going to do most of the time is the employee is going to leave at least, or an employee, customer is going to give the company at least a second chance or at least a first try to get back to them, and then they'll wait. But if you never get back to the customer that's been waiting a reply, then they're just going to get angry and angry, and that's going to escalate to a review, and you don't want that to happen. So extinguish that fire as soon as possible. As soon as you get something like that, I would say just start reaching out to that customer. We have a great and one of our people that works with us, Andrea. She's one of the greatest people we have here in the company that takes care of any reviews that are online. Also anything that deals with the Better Business Bureau, she handles too, and she's really great with communicating with any customer that may have any issues. Most of the issues that the customers that we usually have are because of the USPTO system sometimes and how the trademark process works. But sometimes
Yeah.
you just it's kind of like when these customers have these types of complaints, sometimes they just want to like relieve their angers and their frustrations. And if you at least let them like kind of wear themselves out with that, with their angers and their frustrations,
Yeah.
and then just kind of lend an ear to them, then I found that that's probably one of the best ways to relieve their angers and their frustrations,
Yeah.
because they just want somebody at the end of the day to hear them out. And if
Yeah.
going back to my original point is if you don't go back there and extinguish those fires early, then that
Yep.
fire is just going to build. And if it's a forest, it's going to be a forest fire. And then you're going to really burn
Yeah.
down. Um,
There's
I
there's
kind
an
of
old
like,
expression, yeah, bad milk doesn't get better with time. And that's exactly like what you're saying, which is I think the first thing that you do with a customer complaint is you never ignore it. You hop on it literally as soon as you get it. And at a minimum, even if you can't get on the phone with them, you have to basically get at least an email out to them and say, hey, I understand you're upset about this service. We're looking into this. I will be back to you by either close of business tomorrow. Give them a time certain when you will give it. If it's not a time sensitive issue, you can maybe give them 24 hours. We're back in touch within 24 hours. If it's something that has to be done immediately, they're concerned, like they have a deadline coming up, make sure that would, but at a minimum, acknowledge their concern. That's the first thing we always do. Acknowledge, don't hide from it, because bad milk doesn't get better with time. Acknowledge it, right? And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you continuing? Because I've got my system down and my system's decent,
yeah, I mean, I think my system is pretty similar to yours. Is extinguish the fire very early and just try to get that to them as soon as possible. Kind of talk them off a ledge as well sometimes, and just let
Yep.
them kind of like wear themselves out. Kind of like a boxer, like one of the reasons why Rocky is so, coming from the boxing movie. If anyone's never seen that, go watch those series now. It's really good. One of the best movie series of all time.
Yes.
Especially if you're looking for motivation, that's one of the best as well. But one of the reasons why Rocky was so good at it wasn't because he was the biggest, nor the strongest, or the fastest, or anything. It's just he knew how to wear out his opponent. He also knew how to take a hit as well. So he'd like let Ivan Drago or Apollo Creed or what's that other guy's name? Mr. T. Mr. T would wear himself out. And then Rocky would take all those hits. And by the time that Rocky's opportunity was to strike, that other boxer has already been worn out. I'm not saying we're punching our customers here, but
Yeah.
we're fighting with them mentally, to not even really fighting either, just kind of just trying to work with them the best we can so that we can resolve their issue. But this
Right.
boxing analogy at least helps them out with just at least hearing them out, understanding what their frustrations are, and working with them the best they can. And also, if you can allow it in your business, maybe even offer them like a discount on their next purchase. Maybe put an extra $100 or $200 on, depending on what your normal product fees are. Put maybe an extra credit on their account next time they come to purchase something. A nice discount or a credit on somebody's account will always sometimes make somebody's they or make somebody smile, and just that usually kind of just sets them back and just say, oh wow, okay, at least this company is trying to work with me and they're giving me something free because I didn't like how their service was completed. It's kind of
Yeah.
like when you go to a restaurant and your food was disgusting and the service stinks. The manager will come out and say, "Hey, next time you come in, the next meal's on us," or just comp the entire meal and say, "We're sorry about that. We really hope you come back in again." It's the same.
Yeah, and never complain about your food because it may come back with a special sauce. Just saying. Yeah, that's for anyone who's worked in the restaurant industry and or who's seen the movie Road Trip. You know what I'm saying. But just yeah, I never. Well, you can play late. Just Road Trip was Breckin Meyer, and Tom. What was the guy that was married to Drew Barrymore? The guy that got testicular cancer. It was him, Breckin Meyer, a
Wait,
couple other people. I don't think
about the
Ryan
Robert
Reynolds.
Downey movie?
No, no. Oh no, this is you gotta see. Road Trip was awesome, and basically they sent the French toast back, and we'll just say the French toast went for a tube steak ride, and the chef's shorts, before it came back out, it tasted a little bit minty after that or
I think I
whatnot.
know
But
what the one you're talking about. Yeah,
it's a good movie. It was Stifler may have been in it as well. I'm thinking, but maybe not. It was sort of like
John
that.
William Scott and Brecklin Meyer. Yeah.
Michael Meyer, yeah, which by the way, one of our former employees once had dinner with Brecklin Meyer, whatever. She was basically, and she was just literally sitting in a cafe. Excuse me, it was lunch. She was sitting in like one of those like little delis in New York City, and they looked up and they were sharing a table with him and I guess his
No
wife,
way.
such. Yeah. And she's on like, so what's he like? She says he was wonderful. She's like, he's a very nice guy. And just we sat there and we just sort of chatted about, life. You don't talk about, my role on stars spotting and stuff. You don't be like, oh, I loved you in such as this movie. Be like, oh, how you enjoy your food? How the kids? Blah blah. Talk to them about regular stuff that you talk to me and you about. Don't tell them how much you love their movies and crap because they're like, yeah, I don't know who you are. So hey, thank you. Bye. Anyways, but getting back, so from my perspective, I think the customer service is absolutely the most challenging it's ever been in the history of the world. Because with the internet, with social media, et cetera, you have to understand two general premises about customer service. Number one, your job is to make sure that your customer is happy, despite the fact that number two, everyone feels that they are right in this day and age. And it is almost impossible to win an argument. If you've ever read the iconic book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, the
Oh, I
author
love
makes
that book. It's my favorite book of all time.
there you go. Can you win an argument? What does he say? No, you can't. You just simply can't win an argument. So don't argue with your customer. Your job is just to make them feel like they've won, and hopefully it's a mutual win because number one, they're kind enough to have come to your company for help, and whether or not they're screaming at you because they're completely wrong, or they lack the understanding to realize they don't understand they're wrong. And there's a lot of times the company is going to be wrong too. So let's not just put everything in the basket here, right? So what's worked for me in the past is I think I agree completely with you. So number one, understand the philosophies behind it. We're going to make you happy no matter what happens. Okay. Because that's our job. And thank you for being our customer. Okay. That's the thing. But we know for a fact that people are not going to admit that they're wrong once they're calling in. So you're completely right. You're going to have to let them blow steam off and you have to take the steam. And so the first part of this is you have to hear them because they want to be heard. So really the first part of this is don't let it fester. Even if you can't listen to them right now, get back in touch with them immediately and tell them when you're going to be able to listen to them. Okay. And sometimes there are some customers that'll do it via email, but most by the time they're angry, they want to hear someone's voice on the other end. And again, they may go on for 5 or 10 minutes. Now, I sort of have a rule. There's not a lot of complexity in what our companies do and all that sort of stuff. You should be able to tell me an entire story in about 5 minutes. And if you're still going to 10 minutes, I will interject because also my time is valuable. But by the way, it's because I want to solve your problem. I'm not being rude just to say, hey, I want you to get off the phone. So, respond to them immediately, give them the audience with you that they require because they need to just blow off their steam at you. Again, whether they're right or not, they're never going to admit they're wrong. Let them say their piece and listen to them. Wholeheartedly listen to them with I'm going to solve their problem. What I traditionally do, and this has absolutely worked really, really well for me, is I've said to them, here's what's going to happen. Okay. I'm going to listen to you. Okay. And at the end, when we are done listing and figuring this all out, I will guarantee you, you're going to be happy with whatever resolution we figure out. Now, between now and then, you and I may have some tough questions to chat about because we got to figure out what's going on. But I guarantee you, this company is dedicated to making you 100% satisfied 100% of the time. And when I've said that, it usually takes a lot of the steam out of their sales. And they're like, okay, so you already know, I already know that, they want to win. We all want to win. And so it sort of takes a steam. So then they'll tell you, now we all know, there's, 5% of customers will be completely wonderful when they have a complaint. Hey, can you just take care of this? 90% will be sort of in between. And there's 5% that are just raging lunatics. And it's going to, it doesn't matter. They're going to say, at the end of the day, they're going to be like, I'm chopping your head off. And I'm like, well, get on that plane from California. Come on, let's go. Please do it with a sharp knife. Anyways, but so once you've said that, you listen to them. And I will rarely solve any problem right on the phone unless it's something hyper specific and real easy. What I'll usually say is, okay, thank you. I've heard you. Let me repeat back what I've heard. Your problem is X, Y, and Z. And once we agreed, I say, okay, I'm not sure I'm going to have a resolution for you right now. I will be back in touch with you within 24 hours and I will have a resolution for you. And then you will be completely happy. Okay, I promise you. So you mark down 24 hours from that moment and you better absolutely. Now, I like to send them an email with the resolution. Next up, try to give people a resolution with options. I have always thought that stress in your life, and it doesn't matter if it's a customer service issue or whatnot, is created by basically a lack of options. You get sued. You feel like the world is going to collapse because you don't have options, right? You get a speeding ticket. Oh my God, my world's over. They're going to lose my license. I don't have options. So you have options. Pay the speeding ticket and move on. Okay. And such. And so when you give a person a couple of options, it gives them a multitude ways, or several ways, excuse me, of basically winning. So they feel like they've won. Oh, here's your options. Option one, option two, option three. Sometimes it may not be the options that they want, but it's going to reduce their stress level because they have options. And then you follow up, and this is the most important part. You make sure that they are made happy. Now, not everyone's going to be made happy. There are going to be some people that just, we have had here at the Trademark Company, people that have basically come back and said, listen, you didn't do this right when we did everything right. I want my money back, and then I want you to do X, Y, and Z for me in addition. And then we'll simply say, focus on what you can do. Hey, not able to do that, but here's the 3 things I can do for you to make you happy. And I think that's where you were trying to tie it in, Jacob, where you're saying, give them a discount, do this, do that, right?
Yeah.
So again, from my perspective, what has worked for me is, number one, understand you're never going to tell someone they're wrong. So don't try to, okay? Listen to them in earnest, and they're your customer. You're blessed as a company to have had them, even if they are angry at you right now. And they're 9 out of 10 customers are angry at you because either you did do something that was wrong or they just didn't understand the service. And so that's incumbent on you to explain these things to them and make sure that they become happy. But so listen to them. Do not let it fester. Listen to them. Tell them upfront, I'm going to make you happy because that's my job here. You gave us your money, and our job is to make you happy at the end of this through one way or the other. So go ahead and tell me what your story is. Okay, great. I've heard your story now. Next, I'm going to get back to you within 24 hours with the resolution, and you better get back to them within 24 hours with the resolution. I always suggest putting it in writing because then if they come back 3 weeks from now because they don't hear me, well, you never got back. Nope, here it is. Put it in writing right here. Here is your resolution. Which one did you want to go with? And then follow up and make sure that that resolution is done. For the 1, 2, or 3%, unfortunately, that's never going to be good enough. Those are tough times. And that's why I just simply say is we understand that you're unhappy with the result in an email, but here are your 3 options. We feel that these, and then you can leave it at an email and hopefully they'll soften and actually come back at you. But it's a really good system to get through a customer service issue that we preach around here at the Trademark Company. Sorry for the rambling on, but I thought it was decent.
No, well said. Well said. You pretty much touched upon everything that you need to do to help a customer through their aggravations and through their issues that they might have. The only other thing I'd put into that would be just leave it off with, again, I know you said it already, but just say that you'll get back to them as soon as possible with a resolution. Thank you for coming to me with your issues or your frustrations. And I assure you that it'll be taken care of. Never tell the customer that it's their fault because it's never going to be their fault. No matter how much how much on, that's another thing you got to realize is no matter what, how much facts you have on your side as a owner, if you're planning on keeping that customer for future, for future visits or future sales or whichever, then by blaming the customer, you'll never retain that customer. If you
Can I
do,
can I can I can I can I can I can I
yeah,
actually annotate a story on that one?
yeah, go for it.
My father was a physician for many years, and but once the boys, it's me and my brother and my mom and my dad, and once the boys were old enough, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and a fantastic stay-at-home mom at that, and she, raised two good kids. We never got in trouble or anything like that. But I was a teenager. My brother was, I think, pretty much getting ready to go off to college, and so a stay-at-home mom, hey, let's get a side hustle going for you. So one of the cooler things is that my parents opened an actual toy store, but it was like a high-end toy store in a hoity-toity mall in South Florida. And my grandfather, my dad's dad, managed a building called 101 Worth Avenue, which is literally, if anyone's ever heard of Worth Avenue, it is one of the top three like shopping streets I think in the world, behind Rodeo Drive, and there's one in Paris. But 101 Worth Avenue is a very exclusive condominium. I mean, each condo unit is over 5,000 square feet. And I will not mention the names of people that I would see there because he would put me on as a summer doorman. But some very, old money had condos in there and they'd come down for like a week or two of the summer and, excuse me, out of the winter, and just to get out of the north, wherever their main homes were in Boston or Minneapolis or wherever. Um, Coming to the point of the customer service thing, that you're not always going to be right, and your customers sometimes just going to abuse you a little bit, but your job is to make them feel right. So hopefully that they continue to do a good review and come back. One of the residents of those condos, for whom my grandfather effectively worked because he was the building manager, came to my dad once into the toy store, and my dad would come in and spell my mom for lunches or whatnot during Christmas, a very busy season. And about 3 days before Christmas, I mentioned this is a high-end toy store. We sold LGB trains. These are model trains. But if anyone knows the LGB line, some of the train engines that we had in that toy store cost $1,200, $1,400, $12 to $1,400. And this is back in like the late 80s. So you can imagine to be $3,000 or $4,000 today for these train engines. And the guy bought one right before Christmas, and took it home and didn't even, anyways, guy comes back in the store right after New Year's to return the train engine, and it's used at this juncture. And he's like, yeah, it just didn't work. Well, if you know anything about electric trains, they have the contact sensors. And when the contact sensors go on the track, that's how the electricity goes through into the little electric engine and such. Well, they're all carbon scored. They only get carbon scored by a lot of use. So in other words, he bought these things for his grandkids. He bought a $1,200, train engine. And remember, this is the guy that employs effectively as my grandfather's boss, and then he's a customer of the TLC Toy Company, which is the name of the toy company my parents, ran for several years, and all this sort of stuff. Comes back and says, it doesn't work, and or he said, oh, we decided just not to keep it. I think he didn't say it didn't work. He says, hey, well, this one, it's a used train engine. The value of it is probably only $200 or $300 because it's been used and it's carbon scored up and all that sort of stuff. And my dad, customer service, had to just eat it and basically be like, oh, of course, Mr. Blankety Blank, that'll be fine. We'll return your money. My dad had him given $1,200. To this day, that train engine actually sits in my parents' home here in North Carolina, because they could never resell it. And, now my kids have actually even played with it. But from a customer service perspective, it's just a story to indicate sometimes for the better good, either be it the sales to that existing customer, to other customers. And in this case, the complication was the dude was my grandfather's boss, and all this sort of stuff. Sometimes you just have to swallow it and just deal with it. But at the end of the day, I think it's personally worth it to do that, because if you have these customer service systems in place, you'll keep those, 4.5 and higher reviews on Google, Trustpilot, et cetera. And your company becomes legend, because not every one of the customers are going to be like that guy. But if you just practice customer service, because it's an art, but if you just practice it like that, you can get so good at it that you just have, a raving fanatical customer base that is just in love with your services, and it is worth it to have. Trust me, it is absolutely worth it to have.
My question is, Matt, when's like the good telltale sign that I mean, because obviously you can't give discounts and always resolve everyone's issue and kind of bend to the customer's will every single time, right? Because at that point, sometimes you'd be a charity. But what's like the telltale sign that you can kind of tell whenever you shouldn't back down as an owner versus a customer that's really unreasonable? Because sometimes it's extreme to the point where you're as a company. I mean, if we got a couple of customers asking for hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of a refund, or let's just say they're threatening reviews and all these other things when you absolutely did nothing wrong as a company. What is your response to somebody that's like that and you can't really bend to them because it's all in your favor? What would you say would be the telltale sign of when you as a company have to hold your ground? What would you do?
I have to say, you have to almost take a step back and say, first of all, you have to have clearly enunciated policies as to your refund policy that the customers you should be able to point to on your website. Because then I have a really great answer for this, but it's going to start back with number one, have the policies in place where you can point to them, say, this is where we refund, this is where we don't. But we have an unspoken rule, and I think every company should have an unspoken rule, which is just simply that you're not going to hold us hostage. So we're never going to, and it would have to be in hyper rare situations. And I'm trying to think of what the situation would be, but we're never going to provide a customer service option that that makes us go into the red on a specific customer transaction. So for instance, if, we charged, to give you a hypothetical, we charge, $200 for a haircut, and the customer basically doesn't like their haircut, and they want $400 back. No, we'll give you $200 back, but you're not going to make money off of us. And I mean, I have customer service like nightmare stories where a customer basically like insisted on one time we got a refund back. And you learn this stuff, running business. Send me a check. I only want a check. They pay with a credit card. I only want a check. And so the minute the check goes out the door, the minute they get the check, they deposit the check, they do a credit card refund. They literally made, $400 on us because it was like a $400 check, and then they got their money back. And then literally it was just like I don't think they were scam artists, but there's all these things. So you do have to put those, those walls in place. The general wall or the flag that goes up for me is when we're going to have to lose money on a transaction. Now, are there situations where it's going to be appropriate? Yes. If a company did not take some action that causes their customer to incur additional money, yeah, you may have to actually remedy that. And you may have to actually bite the bullet and just say, okay, well, this is just right from a customer service perspective. But usually it's going to be about, well, what are the facts and such? And I don't think that you should ever bow to, especially if you're in the right. Now, if you're completely in the wrong, like let's say you completely botch something and you have someone that's coming back, and let's just say they bought a $200 service and, they want the 200 and let's just say it's going to take $200 more to remedy it, right? And they're threatening a 1-star review. I'll be honest with you, I don't care much about 1-star reviews when the person's, wrong, because we love blasting them back with facts. One of our things is like, all the time our customer service team will come to me and they'll just basically be like, well, this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, so we did literally everything right. This person's just a lunatic. And they're just like, yes. I'm like, okay, blast them. And, my favorite 1-star reviews are from the people that basically come in. We did everything 100% right. And you know who I'm talking about. This happens. We did everything 100% right. And they don't like that, how, someone else treated them, a government agency or something like that. And then they call up and they spend 45 minutes with one of our wonderful people who, by the way, are taught, under Title VII and all that sort of stuff. If someone uses profanity, you have a right to hang up that phone, tell your manager. The manager will call them back and say, we will not do business with you anymore because we're not here to be abused. And this should be a standard throughout all industries, by the way. This is a business relationship. And you need to always make sure your employees know you support them in that regard. But again, my favorite ones are the people that come in, they're completely wrong. Spend 45 minutes saying racist, sometimes racist, homophobic, F-bomb, profanity-laced tirades against one of your quality employees who takes it because they don't have to. We tell them they don't have to, but they take it. And then they have the audacity to file a 1-star review, sometimes because they didn't do something right. And then I just say, have at it in the response. 9 out of 10 of those reviews get taken down because when we put in what they did to our team, you keep notes when they call in. And if they're profanity laced or whatever, because that person suddenly goes, oh, wait a minute, they responded and I can't. So it's almost like a counter that goes into their response. And then so if they have like 25 reviews and these people usually are just negative people, they usually have like 25 reviews and all 25 are 1 star. They never leave 5 stars, but you blast them back with, yeah, and you basically called our employee a blankety blank, racist term, whatever. And it's only if it's true. But you put it in, you say, this is verbatim what you did. You called us on this date. This is what you said. For 15 minutes, you used the F-bomb, berating our person, whatever. I will drop that in, 9 out of 10 times when you actually respond back to them, and such. But anyways, getting back full circle, direct me back to where we were, because I don't know, I started drifting on that when I started doing this. I was like, I'm sorry, the question was, when do you basically, will you bow? But if you're actually wrong, that's when I will actually bow to them, because the answer is the most damaging reviews, and we absolutely have gotten them in the past. Have we dropped a ball once or twice? Absolutely.
Like any
The ones
company,
that I
sometimes it would. Every company does sometimes. Nobody's
yeah,
perfect.
exactly. And the thing is, the most important thing about, if you ever, basically, if you ever drop the ball, just make sure that you take care of it down the road. And that's what I've talked about in the beginning of this customer service. We're going to make it right. And we, from time to time, have we done it? Yeah. But the point would just simply be is okay, so you drop the ball, you make it right. But those are the damaging customer reviews that you have to avoid, because when someone says something like, and there's been those times I've looked at one, I'm like, is this what happened? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, make it right. And then you just put out a response and just like, I'm sorry, you try to get them to take the actual review down, but then in advance, you want to avoid those reviews, because especially if we messed up, you got to just basically be like, hey man, we apologize. What can we do to make this right? And that's the other thing. Copying to a mess up is also extraordinarily powerful in this day and age. It takes this wind right out of the sails. And if you actually did mess up as a company, own it. Say, I'm so sorry. Our job is to basically make you happy, and we didn't do so, so we're going to do so. Come back at them with 3 options and make them happy, because that is your job.
Yeah, and I have a real quick, and we can end it after this. But I have a really good customer interaction that's kind of I don't know if you've ever heard of this book either. I think everyone that's in sales or also just deals with customers on a regular basis or in customer service should definitely go get this book now. It's called Verbal Judo. I'd have to look up the artist, but if you've ever heard of Verbal Judo, it's actually a police officer that has been a police officer for many, many years, created this book. And he's basically, in the book, he teaches you how to handle people as a police officer would, because you wouldn't think, but police officers handle angry people every single day, because most of the time, 9 times out of 10, whenever somebody gets pulled over, they're going to be angry,
Yeah.
mainly at the fact of the matter is they're probably going to get a ticket. So I actually had this kind of customer yesterday. Matt, I think you're also kind of helping me out with this one today as well. But I had a customer due to a system error within like a system glitch with one of our systems. We were providing a service, and for some reason our system was just not getting the application or whatever it is out to them. And they were kind of left hanging for a little while we were trying to get this done for them. And their deadline's coming up here in a couple of days as well. So they're getting antsy, they're getting a little frustrated that deadline's coming sooner and sooner. And so they they called me yesterday, and they came in fuming and angry at us because the system's not updating correctly and it's not getting the process completed. And just like with any system, sometimes there's glitches, sometimes there's errors. It's just how you deal with them, which is what matters. And instead of me, I kind of just was dead honest with them, and I'm apologetic on behalf of the system itself that this is happening to us. But all I can really do is assure you that we're going to get this issue or this glitch fixed as soon as possible, so that we can get your trademark back up to speed for where it needs to be, so that you don't lose your trademark at the end of the day. And as soon as I started being very honest with him and told him that all of his issues are going to be handled right then and there, that he started to calm down immediately. He just wanted to know that his issue and his trademarks were going to be listened to and also handled. So, but if I would have just said, "Listen, calm down, buddy. We're trying to do the best we can here with this system glitch. Just hang on for us," he would come at me and say, "I don't really care about your issues. This is my trademark. I don't really care what you guys are going through. And you need to help me get this resolved now, or I want a refund." And then they'll start coming in with the reviews. They'll start saying, I'm going to leave a 1-star review if you don't get this handled immediately, or give me a refund. All these things could have arose if I just would have went that direction. And this kind of explains it in that book Matt just mentioned, which is How to Win Friends and Influence Others. Is instead of just kind of like getting angry and frustrated and also yelling at the customer and just kind of blaming them or another thing other than themselves, then the customer is going to make that more about them, because again, it is about them, and that the company, which was us in this case matter, was in the fault. So just kind of just being upfront with them, just saying, listen, I completely understand you 100%. This is not on you. This is on us. Let's go ahead and take care of this immediately so that your issues are resolved. And he completely flipped the switch. He went from being a very angry customer about to leave a bad review to a happy customer that's very understanding, because I was honest with him and down to earth. So
Yeah.
because of that, we're retaining the customer. He's going to get his trademark, and everything's going to be okay. So
Nicely done.
yeah. So I think that'll do it for us, Matt. I think we've obviously we went over the trademark dispute with Logan Paul and this new NASCAR driver. I think probably every week we're going to have a new lawsuit against Logan Paul. So maybe it would just be like a weekly thing for moving on. Forgot to ask though, Matt, your
Logan
judgment
Paul.
on the NASCAR versus Logan Paul. Is it infringement or no? Quick answer.
In the absence of knowing whether or not that they tried to enforce their trademark sooner, assuming they did not, until his brand got pretty famous, normally I would have probably leaned towards he may have a problem. But I think latches should bar the case unless they can prove that they've been negotiating with this guy for as he's built the brand up and he knew about them the whole time. So I'm going to go with not on the grounds of they waited too long to enforce their rights, from what I know. What do you think?
I think the same exact reason. I think that obviously it's been 2022 when this has been out and about. When he first created this product, I'd have to look up exactly when he actually filed for it, because it just said that he's started the business ever since 2022. Logan Paul. So I guess maybe it all just depends on when he actually filed it. I'd have to investigate a little bit further to see exactly when everything's been filed, because in the trademark world, most of it all depends on when you first use it and when you first filed it. So those are the biggest two things that matter the most. So I guess it all depends. In my opinion, first glances, I would say no. I'd say it's not enough for Logan Paul to lose this, and I don't think he's going to. I think whoever he has as a lawyer, trademark lawyer or attorney, is going to handle this like a piece of cake. It ain't going to bother him.
Yeah, good luck to his attorney, right? All right, cool deal.
Alrighty, well, thank you again for everybody that's listening. My judgment on that the last topic is infringement. No, Matt's infringement is also no. And this episode is sponsored by the Trademark Company. I'll leave the link in the description. So if you have any trademark needs, always come to us. Check out our next podcast next week. And thank you again for anybody that's listening.